welcome back to Project Astrology. I'm Nina.
Fuck, I forgot my cue. Hello! Hello!
And welcome back to Project Astrology. I'm Nina.
I'm Shaina.
And this is the 10th house in astrology.
Woo! Woo-hoo. Yeah! Midheaven! Yeah!
This video is going to be about what the 10th house means in astrology. Then we will soon be posting a video about 10th house planetary placements. And if you don't have any 10th house planetary placements, but you want to know what's going on in your 10th house, we have an accompanying blog post being posted right now on our website, projectastrology.com, that breaks down each 10th house cusp ruler, as well as blog posts for all of the other houses that came before this one, as well as videos for all of the other houses that came before this one, and many of them.
This is actually our second time recording this video.
Because we have a new camera!
Yay!
Yay! And we didn't know how it worked last time.
Well, actually, I didn't know how the microphone worked.
Right.
Camera was great. Microphone, new to us. As you can tell, our shitty sound. It hopefully is a little bit better now.
Yeah, so soak up all of this nice quality content, because we have reached the 10th house where status matters.
Yeah, dude, it's so perfect how on our 10th house video, it's the first video with all this new fucking fancy ass equipment.
Yeah.
And to all those haters, aka the one person that was like the first viewer of our channel who said our sound was shitty and we need to get it fixed, how many years later we got it fixed?
You mean Tyler Fairbank?
Yeah. So Tyler Fairbank, who's definitely not watching this video, we got the sound fixed.
While you're over at our website checking out the blog post, we also offer readings. You can check them out, see if anyone calls your name, see if any of them are in stock, because sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but good rule of thumb is that they are always in stock the first of every month. So if you don't need to pay your rent on the first of every month, invest on a reading for Project Astrology.
Okay, so the 10th house. First, we'll take you on a quick walk down memory lane, down the other houses, because we've done it, it's tradition.
So
take it away, Nina!
So the 10th house is the house of public persona, career, and status. So how did we get there? First, we were born. We got our first house. Our first impression, what everyone thought of us, our personality that we adapt and identify with. Then we grow up a little bit. We get a teddy bear. We're like, ooh, this is something that I own, and it gives me a sense of value. Second house, possessions, blah, blah, blah. Then you go to the third house, you go off to school. You learn all of the things that lower education can provide for you, and then you come home, the fourth house, where you have your nice after school snack, or maybe you have to do a bunch of chores, depending on what's going on in your fourth house. Once you're done having your little break between school and activities, you go to your fifth house. Fun, activities, stuff that you like, stuff that you enjoy, creativity, children, because you create your children, and then it's time to go to work. The sixth house. You're like, okay, life is getting serious now, time to get a routine.
You got those glasses on?
Sixth house also rules your health and your work, so it's a lot of like routine Virgo-y stuff. Then you kind of feel like pretty complete of a person, so it's time to get to your other half. Your seventh house, your shadow side, your interpersonal relationships, including marriage. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the eighth house, the marriage bed. Joint finances, people coming together, soul merging.
Just doing this all the time with people.
Yeah. And then you get real existential, you think about death. Good times. Well, the eighth house is like, you know, the death of the individual, the rebirth of who you are now. Then after all of this existentialism, it's time to turn to a higher power. What is the meaning of life? The ninth house, beliefs, higher education, and travel. So, now that you got yourself a nice, good old higher education, what are you gonna do with it?
What are you gonna do with it? Wait, I think
What
you're
are you
gonna
gonna do with it?
put it towards your career, your work, your public image.
Yes.
10th house is ruled by Capricorn and Saturn, and I have to blow my nose real bad. Give me 1 second. This is the last angular house of the chart to go along with the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th. So you got you, home, relationships, and work.
Something that we're going to be emphasizing a lot, because we know, because we already filmed this video, is how the 10th house opposes the fourth house. So the 10th house is the top of the chart. If you look at the circular format of the chart. So it is really what people see. Public persona, including Instagram, including if you get any fame. Just how someone views you if they see you across the room.
Yeah, even at a party.
Yeah.
Looking at you from across your room, you don't see somebody's ascendant until you come one-on-one and actually have a personal conversation with them. You see their midheaven from far away. It's very much a projection.
And because of the way astrology works, it is the sign directly opposite whatever is ruling your 4th house. It's Cancer 4th house, Capricorn 10th house. Mom takes care of me, dad goes out and wins the bread.
The 4th house will probably represent your more nurturing figure. That's usually the mother. It doesn't have to be if you have 2 moms, 2 dads, whatever it is. It's a more nurturing guardian of the family or lack thereof. And then the 10th house represents the breadwinner, the go out and get things person that really set the view of what working and career and reputation is for you.
Yes, and now the 6th house has to do with work. And the 2nd house has to do with how you're going to make your money. So the distinction with the 10th house is that the 10th house really rules status, more like.
Persona, recognition, reputation.
Because it is ruled by Capricorn, which is the mountain goat. The idea is climbing to the top. It's the top of the chart. And depending on how strong your midheaven or your 10th house, they're the same thing, by the way, if you didn't figure that out, however strong your midheaven or your 10th house is in your chart, says how much status is influential over your idea of what work means, or what your kind of status will be to the rest of the world, what other people's idea of your public persona is going to be. For example, we have Pisces midheavens, both of us. So it's only natural that we're out here talking about astrology and spiritual things and all of that, and that is the public persona that we have come into. It's not necessarily every Pisces midheaven is going to be like that. Maybe they'll be artistic in some kind of other way. Maybe they'll be known for being a drug addict. You know, there's so many different facets.
The 10th house is also referred to, like we mentioned, as the midheaven, the MC, and also sometimes referred to as the 2nd ascendant.
Because in numerology, the 10th house is 1 plus 0. Boom. That's 1. It's not as great as the second time.
It's not. The 2nd, 6th, and 10th all rule work, but they all rule it in very different ways. The 2nd house is how you want to earn money. 6th house is about how you are daily in work. Like, not overall how you're seen, but day to day, how do you work? 10th house is the overarching archetype of who you are at work, how you present yourself, how you want to be seen. Most of the time, I would say, even if it's poorly aspected, people want to appear as their 10th house. And the things that it's poorly aspected with is what's getting in their way, instead of vice versa. You know what I mean? Even if you have like your sun or your moon or something squaring in midheaven, it doesn't mean that you don't like your sun or your moon. It just means that you still would rather appear as your midheaven. I would say it is the most put on and the most artificial, even if it's sincere, because of the natural thing of it's opposite your 4th house.
Exactly.
Your 4th house is who you innately are. It's just in you. It's just natural. Like, we have a 4th house in Virgo, but yet on this channel we come across as very scattered, come across as probably more irresponsible than we actually are. Yeah, and our uploads are inconsistent, when in reality we're always on top of things. We're
always working. We have schedules always planned out months ahead of what we're gonna do.
If we plan something, the other person's gonna be there. There's no chance that we're gonna flake unless the other person tells us, which that's that Virgo 4th house, but yet we appear as these totally sporadic, I think we do, like, inconsistent woo-wah people.
Yeah. And another way to look at it is that the 10th house really rules your position, and that's why it's so put on, because your 6th house is your work environment, what your work environment is like, how you behave in it, and then your 10th house is not something that is viewed by the people within your work environment. It's about the people from the outside seeing what your position looks like.
It's a projection of yourself. There's nothing more false than it, honestly. As false as it is, you still will have a deep connection with it. It's just put on purposefully.
And sometimes you can feel, depending on how it's aspected, that it really comes out of your need to project a certain thing. Sometimes it feels like someone has put this idea on you that you are this, and no, I'm not this. I'm really my 4th house, but people seem to see me as my 10th house.
It's also used as a protection too.
Yeah.
You don't want people to just automatically see your 4th house. That's personal, that's private. You don't want people to judge that. So you're going to purposefully probably project the opposite of that. Just because it's more comfortable, because it's not who you are. People can't almost judge it as harshly because it's really not you, you know?
So it really depends on your relationship with your 10th house versus your 4th house. Are you that kind of person who's like, no one sees me for me and I just wish that they knew what was really going on in me? Or is it, I don't want anyone to see me and me, I am the doctor, I am this and that and the other. You know, we look at the 10th house as a pretty positive place to have planets. If you have personal planets in the 10th house, it generally means that you have a good amount of popularity. It is probably an indication of reaching a certain amount of success. So that is all really positive stuff about the 10th house. But again, there is the trip up of overly identifying with what other people see in you, overly identifying with your status, with your position, not cutting yourself any slack because you believe that you need to be held up to this kind of standard.
It's important to remember that the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. The Capricorn wants to be its best. So it's ever in your 10th house, that's what you want to do at its best. You want to portray only the positive, best, most amazing qualities of that sign or of those planets.
So if you have certain things going on in your 10th house, it could mean that people don't cut you any slack because they expect you to do your best always. It could mean that you don't want to show how much of a soft, vulnerable human that you are.
Capricorn.
So you end up developing a bit of social anxiety, a little bit of difficulty forming intimate 4th house kind of bonds with people. It could mean that you neglect completely your home life in favor of reaching a certain position, of reaching a certain status, of having other people recognize you as being successful. And so what's interesting is that the 10th house rules fame, right? And a lot of people say, I want to be famous because that is an indication that I am successful. Because at the end of the day, success and what Capricorn is about, it's not that 4th house inner fulfillment, it is about separating yourself from the rest of the pack, of being a cut above the rest, of being at the top of the mountain.
Public recognition.
Instead of climbing up that mountain, but having a great little cottage to come home to at the end of the day, you know?
The 10th house, if you have a lot of planets in there, you might be like, I have like a crazy stellium in the 10th house and I should be famous and da-da-da, why am I not famous? It can easily, the 10th house can get easily clogged and easily so self-conscious. Planets or the sign that you might think makes you open and free might make you just so hyper self-conscious because you really only want to show the best qualities of what's in the 10th house. The 10th house can, I think, more than any other house, it does feel very chosen. It does feel like I chose to be this midheaven because that's what I saw in everybody else. Like that's the qualities I saw in everybody else that I want to project because these look so lovely, these look so good. And it also has to do with how you will be received. That's what we talked about, like recognition and reputation. If you have some, you know, questionable stuff going on. Okay, I was recently looking into like Lindsay Lohan's chart, and she is a Pisces midheaven with Jupiter in the 10th house. Who is going to be known more for partying than somebody with Pisces with Jupiter in their 10th house?
And she was, on the one hand, really blessed for having this career at a very young age.
Amazing
and like really
career,
taking
great
off.
actress, can transform into all these people, big personality, and then kind of came crashing down with all the partying.
Yeah, and something that's also really well known about Lindsay Lohan is that she has struggles with her 4th house. You know, her family, because that's what comes with success from a young age, and that much, and you know, Jupiter's expansion. So we'll get into that with the planetary placements and all of that. Another thing about the 10th house is when you think about it being ruled by Capricorn is, we already mentioned this a little bit, about how depending on what you have in there, other people might not cut you any slack. It's also going to throw you a lot of challenges. Anytime where you see Capricorn energy and you read about it on the internet, it'll say whatever Capricorn energy you have going on here is going to get better after your Saturn return.
So even if you don't have Capricorn energy in your midheaven, it's just about the fact that it's ruled by Capricorn.
Right.
It's going to be hard to reach those traits. No matter what it is, it's not going to be, like we mentioned, it's easy. It's put on. And it's not as familiar to you. It's at the top of your chart. It's high up there. And so it's not something, as most Capricorn things, that you're going to really come into ownership of and mastery until you're you're about 30, around that time. That's really going to spread your wings,
right,
and you're really going to own it.
Because the entire idea of Capricorn energy is that to be a cut above the rest, you can't get pat on the back and be given a sticker.
Yeah.
You know, you need to constantly be working and having challenges thrown your way, and that's what's going to make you grow and make you stronger, make your legs stronger to climb up that mountain to get towards success.
Also, with the 9th house going into the 10th house, you use the 9th house things of what you believe. We kind of mentioned this in the 9th house. What you believe, what you hold true, what you really know about too.
Yeah.
9th house is all about knowledge and really digging
What
deep.
your education is in, what your degree is in.
Yeah. 9th house information to build your 10th house career.
Your 10th house also has a lot to do with your reputation. So it's super interesting to look at celebrities' birth charts to see how much their 10th house reflects their reputation. Like we
so
said.
true. Like, let's say your 10th house is beautiful. Whatever it is, it's beautifully aspected. Maybe it has your sun in there. So it has some nice something or whatever in there, right? But then your 2nd house is fucked. Your 6th house is fucked. And you'll be like, again, why am I not reaching this thing that I should be? It's because you gotta get your other career houses sorted out first, especially because, again, Capricorn Saturn, its lessons, its rules, its restriction, its regulation, you cannot get anything from Capricorn or Saturn unless you deal with everything first.
Yeah.
So you really cannot leave these things and ignore them and expect good things to come.
Right.
This is not the house where you're gonna just get luck. You know, it's not the 9th house. You're not just gonna fall into things.
In a lot of ways, the 10th house feels chosen. It feels like you're putting yourself on. But also in looking at the 10th house as being ruled by Capricorn and having Capricorn be that paternal figure, a lot of times the 10th house can feel like what is expected of you, what your father possibly says that your career should be, whether it's going into the family business or like my entire dad's side of the family is all economists, engineers,
Big
they're
stuff,
real
money
Catholic.
stuff.
Yeah, big stuff that has
Big
to do
bank
with
hours.
status. So that is what is really important and passed down to me because I have Saturn in the 10th house of, you know, do something responsible. In that way, sometimes your midheaven can feel like something that is chosen in one way, but also expected of you.
Yes.
Put upon you.
Obviously, it has to do with, you know, like Nina said, your family, what your family did, what your family expected of you, how you saw your parents work. Was your dad the money earner, and did he just go to the same job every day and you have a Taurus midheaven? And so now all you know is to just to find a job, go in there and go the beaten path, you know? Or did your parents do crazy jobs, you're moving everywhere, and you have a Sagittarius midheaven, and all these options and all these ideas, but your parents never had a sit down and day one do this, day two do that kind of career, so now you're just kind of all over the place and don't know, can't focus on one thing, can't hold a job down.
Many things that you learn in life and your idea of many things have to do with what your parents taught you that those things look like. That wasn't really great grammar, but you get the picture. By how your father worked or how your mother worked or how you saw work growing up, what work means to you is reflected in whatever your midheaven is doing, whatever your 10th house is doing. Now, if you hold an interception in your 10th house, that could mean that for whatever reason, whatever you saw growing up doesn't resonate with you. Or even if it's not an interception and it's just like a different kind of energy, an energy that doesn't necessarily make sense. Like Pisces midheaven with Saturn in there is not very intuitive.
Pisces is a mess and Saturn's the opposite of that.
Right. That could be an indication of either you saw your parent melding those two things in a very specific way, or that you have a certain conflict going on of this is what I want to do, but this is what I've seen should be done in order to have a career. And I think that's especially emphasized if you hold an interception in your 10th house. There's just kind of a disconnection from what you saw work to be, and maybe you don't want to follow that beaten path. Even without an interception, maybe you just identify more with your 4th house. It just depends on what house is the most prominent in you. And this is a big lesson that we're all learning right now as this video is being posted, with the North Node transiting Cancer and the South Node transiting Capricorn, is a lot of times, for whatever reason, because astrologically this isn't what makes sense, but a lot of times our society thinks what I need to do is have a career and have success, and then I will be fulfilled. And astrology points you towards these arrows that says, no, it's the opposite. It is once you have developed yourself and once you are fulfilled within yourself that you can feel truly successful. Because of course you can reach all of the success in your 10th house, but that is never going to guarantee that your 4th house, your sense of peace,
or even your
sense of stability.
House. It's the last angular house, yet we expect it to come first. We expect to have our career first, and then we'll figure out ourselves, or figure out our home life, or figure out our relationships. But the other ones need to come first for you to have a truly successful inwardly career. You know what I mean? Fulfilling and content.
Like I was just listening to a podcast, Kayla Nicholson's Coffee Talk podcast, and she was talking about, oh God, she's always reading books and talking about them. And I think she was talking about the happiness advantage in this one.
Shit, it's an advantage.
Yeah. And the entire theme of that podcast was just like, hey, you guys, did you know that success in your career does not mean success in your life? And that is exactly what astrology is saying, is that the 4th house comes before the 10th house, and the 7th house comes before the 10th house. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, there's this rhetoric, there's this narrative in our society of like, oh, you can't get married until you have a stable job. Once you have a stable job, everything will fall into place. And that is totally not the case when you look at astrology. And with the North Node transiting Cancer at the moment, that's really what we're dealing with in these 18 months, is find your self-fulfillment first instead of how many Instagram followers you have, what your status is, what your reputation is. That is, at the end of the day, not what's going to lead you to a sense of peace and fulfillment in your 4th house, your roots, who you feel you are when you get home at the end of the day.
Not only is the 10th house how others see you in a larger sense, but I think it's also how you see the world, especially as a child. You look outside of the world and you see it as though it's your 10th house, if that makes sense. We just use our examples just because it's easy, because it's us, you know? So with a Pisces midheaven, and when I was younger, I totally saw the world as this like Pisces creative, but Saturn, everybody was creative but doing their job and working very hard but doing their dream, and a very foggy idea. And that was very much how I thought the world was going to be when I grew up. And that's the 10th house. It's how you think the world is going to be when you grow up, and so how you want to be in the world when you grow up, because it's what you think it is. Even if you don't have a Pisces midheaven, it's probably going to be diluted still. Anyways, also the 10th house rules authority, how you deal with authority, how well or how poorly you deal with authority, how you are in a place of authority. Like if you have Aries midheaven, you probably get in a lot of arguments with authority. You're not about it. You need to be the authority. Whereas like if you have Libra in the 10th house, you probably don't feel like you need any authority, but you want to like collaborate with everybody, and you're so friendly and blah, blah, blah. Also, we mentioned this earlier, but social media is ruled through the 10th house because it's your public persona. And what do we say more? Social media is fake. Don't trust when anybody puts on social media. It's fake. It is.
Astrology proves it. It's not who the person actually is on the inside.
Yes, it's just we want to show.
It's about status. It's about position and popularity and just that idea of success. That's what you're showing off on your social media.
And what's also especially funny is that just overall, in general, in social media, it's not really a thing to be very emotional. It's not really accepted to share your private life. And why is that? Because Capricorn rules the 10th house. 10th house, social media, Capricorn does not have time for emotions. Do not show that shit, hide that shit. And that is why it is kind of just like a general thing. That's why we have Finstas and Instagrams. You know what I mean? Yeah. But even a Finsta will still relate to your 10th house. I find that people with a lot of 10th house stuff have a much more active Finsta than an Instagram, because they're so self-conscious, but yet they want to share, you know? So they're only going to share to a select group of people, and they're going to share all the time, whereas their Instagram, probably pretty empty. They're really, really heavily curated, whereas their Finsta is just a shitload of fuck.
Shitload of fuck.
Yeah. Or if you have like Saturn in the 10th house, you can't even imagine having a Finsta. Yeah. I tried for 2 days and was like, nope, I'm removing everybody.
Yeah.
Aspects to your midheaven are also super important. If you have a Leo midheaven, but yet your sun is squaring or opposing your Leo midheaven, you're gonna get a lot of the negative traits put on you of Leo midheaven than somebody with like their sun trining the midheaven, because sun rules Leo. So, you know, the same goes with Sagittarius if your Jupiter is in bad aspect. So that's a good hint to look at. Also reputation, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Here's an antidote about the dangers of over-identifying with your midheaven. Because, again,
which is very easy to do.
It's not very you. And sometimes it can feel like it's put upon you. I feel probably, especially for me, because I hold my interception in my 10th house, and also Pisces midheaven maybe, but
yeah, people are like, yep.
This is you. But I was listening to someone talk about how they grew up their whole life being told that they were stupid, that they would never amount to anything. This person didn't even graduate their equivalent of high school in their country, and they just worked vocational jobs because they thought that that was all that life had in store for them, because that was what was put upon them. Other people's idea of their future. The 10th house also has to do with future. He adopted this and he was like, yeah, I'm not very smart, I'm not educated, and this, that, and the other, until one day he took a IQ test and he got a 136, which is in the genius category.
Wow.
And it changed his entire life around. And he went back to school, he got an education, he has a very successful career now, and it's just from not following what other people had to say about their idea of his future. And I got very inspired listening to that, and I took an IQ test. And it's funny because Pisces midheaven, and especially doing this as a career, doing something that we can often, get stuck in our bubble of, we believe in astrology. We talk to each other about astrology. We have clients and we have viewers who comment
Accepting,
positive
love,
things.
Agree, yeah.
But a lot of times we go out into the real world, and even some people in my family don't believe in it and question what I'm doing and question my intelligence, and probably question your intelligence too, and, really brush off of, this person must be stupid for believing in something that's not real. And so I took an IQ test and I got 120, which is actually within the top 12%.
I've always said, I was like, Nina's one of the smartest gals I know.
An IQ test is all about pattern recognition. They show you patterns and they're like, okay, what is the next sequence of this pattern?
Really? I'm great at patterns.
That's why I think autistic people have such high IQ.
Yeah, because it's just patterns.
And what is astrology if not?
It's just patterns. It's just patterns.
So I was like, oh my god, because I'm good at patterns, I'm smart.
No, but astrology is so much more Virgo. I mean, obviously it's Pisces, but there's also so much more Virgo to it than people realize. It's so much about patterns and memorization and little connections and associations.
And it was super affirming to me, because that's when I realized that a lot of people, I mean, I always knew this, but a lot of people don't think I'm smart. A lot of people don't take me seriously. And actually, for a long time, I have been adopting this idea of, oh, I'm spacey. I'm a little wishy-washy. I must not be very smart. And I just think that whole anecdote and that whole personal story for me was wow, your 10th house is totally put on and not a reflection of who you are on the inside. And so that was a little antidote that I wanted to tell about how you are more than your midheaven.
So on that little lovely note, that is the end of our 10th house video. We'll be coming out with the 10th house planetary placements pretty soon. Thank you for being patient.
Make sure to check out the blog post to see what your house cusp ruler means, and putter around on the website if you so feel inclined.
Again, just because you have an empty 10th house doesn't mean you're not going to be successful.
No, it doesn't.
Don't even.
In conclusion, this is what to take away with this video that is being filmed and posted while the North Node is in Cancer. Your status doesn't reflect your intelligence, doesn't reflect your actual worth, doesn't reflect who you are on the inside, and happiness and fulfillment does not come from what your status is. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Damn, you almost ended strong.